behalf of Vivekananda International Foundation, I welcome you all to this Universal Brotherhood Day function today. Swami Vivekananda delivered his world-famous Chicago lecture on 11th September 1893. And the first 5 words of his lecture, Sisters and Brothers of America, were so magical that the whole audience stood up and started giving an applaud. We all know about this. Today's function is to celebrate that, the universal brotherhood and the principles of universal brotherhood that Swami Vivekananda enunciated in that lecture on that day. We have Vivekananda Kendra's Vice President, Kumari Nivedita Bhide with us. She would be speaking today on this occasion. And a great journalist and very forceful writer, Francois Gauthier, to chair the function. We'll start with invocations and I request Shri Hardik Mehta to lead the invocations.
भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्ट्वागंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः ॐ शान्ति 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 ॐ सं समित्युवसे वृषन्नग्ने विश्वान्यर्या इळस्पदे समित्यसे सनो वसून्यावर सङ्गच्छध्वं संवदध्वं संवो मनासि जानताम् देवा भागै यथा पूर्वे सञ्जानाना उपासते समानं मन्त्रः समिति सहानि समानं मनः सहचित्तमेषाम् समानं मन्त्रमभिमन्त्र एव समानेन वो हविषा जुहोमि समानि वापूति समाना हृदयानि वा समानमस्तु वो मनो यथा सुसहासति ईशावास्यमिदगं सर्वं यत्किञ्च जगत्यां जगत् येन त्यक्तेन भुञ्जीथाः मा गृधकस्य सिद्धनम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति
I'll request our director, Shri Ajit Doval, to introduce the topic of the day and the speakers of the day.
Sister Nivedita Bhide, Mr. Francois Gauthier, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed a very significant day in the calendar of Vivekananda International Foundation to celebrate the Universal Brotherhood Day. It was a very historic day. It was a day which had the great consequences and which did make a great impact on the minds of the Indian people. It made them to think about themselves and their country in a very different and new way. Indian tradition, or for that matter the Oriental tradition of thought, has been greatly influenced by what is popularly known as pacifism. Pacifism is basically a term that is used or has to be used in a conflictual context. If there is no conflict either in the mind or in physical sense or potentially violence, coercion, threat, it is irrelevant, it is never taught. So when we talk about pacifism, we essentially are talking about a conflict resolution through a particular way or a conflict avoidance. But there is essentially a conflict. This conflict can be at many planes. It can be at moral plane, it can be physical plane, it can be within the nation. It can even be within an individual's own mind and his values and his relationship with his own self or his relationship with the society. There is another very important fact that we have to understand. That pacifism manifests itself in three different orbits. One is at a moral plane. That morally you think that pacifism is a good strategy to resolve the conflicts, to avoid the conflicts. That moral superiority gives you a position of dominance. At another level, it's pragmatism. That is, the expediency demands that you take the position of pacifism. It's more tactical. And one is when we talk about pacifism in consequential sense. That is the cost of getting into a conflict. You want to avoid that cost, and therefore you think about the consequences and you become a pacifist. Everyone invests a lot when he takes a pacifist course. There is an investment. Sometimes it is invisible, sometimes it is visible, but sometimes it is something that you defer to the future. That is, I will take a course of action that will ensure my safety and security, let the cost be paid by my coming generations. Most of the consequential pacifism has been of that kind. It has been this thing that I am avoiding the consequences of today and let the future, let my future generations, let the times that will come beyond me, let them pay the cost of that. There is only one way in which the pacifism has manifested itself without the future generations paying the cost for it. That is the pacifism of strength. When there is balance of deterrence, there is balance of power. Just think, if during the Cold War, there was so much of an ideological conflict between the free world and the communist world. And one power was so weak that it could be gobbled up by the other. Probably a conflict was inevitable. Probably the both blocs followed the policy of pacifism by arming them to their teeth and coming to a situation where the mutual destruction was totally assured should they get into conflict, and that is why there was no conflict. Conflict always is attached, has got an implied this thing of hope. If there is no hope, there is no conflict. If there is no dividend in that of getting that conflict, this thing, probably you will never get into that. Now, as long as that hope is alive, as long as that hope that in this conflict, if I enter, there is a possibility for me to gain, is alive, conflict is inevitable. You can only defer the time or the place, the setting of the situation. If you want to avoid the conflicts, you have got to be prepared. And we should be prepared not only to engage in the conflict, not only to win the conflict, but even to destroy ourselves in the